Hey, it's been a while. I got sidetracked by spring in Iowa, some projects around the old homestead, things like that. In addition, I managed to crash 2 laptops and lost a bunch of footage, so while continuity has never been my strong point, I've always kind of liked these videos to flow together a little better, but this one's going to be a little different. We're going to jump around a little bit, probably have to do a little more explaining. We'll have to use our imagination more so than me actually showing you doing it. Heck, who knows, maybe it'll be better this way. Anyway, here we go. First of all, I want to apologize if the audio's a little off on this. What are you doing? Get out of there. I'd say it's raining cats and dogs outside, but the cats are inside. Before somebody starts asking questions about why would I let my cats crawl all over a guitar or possibly scratch it up, I'm not too worried about this one. This is the first guitar I ever built. Plays pretty good. Leonard. I've loaned it out to a couple different people, in particular people starting out. It's got a couple bumps and bruises from both them using it and me playing it outside. It's a really nice guitar to play out by the fire pit, that sort of thing. So I'm not too particular about it. So I don't mind that they're kind of crawling all over it. Certainly if I had something that was I was really proud of, or if it was somebody else's, I probably wouldn't allow them to quite do what they're doing here. When you're drawing your neck out, you're going to need to consider nut spacing, string width, and the width of your strings at your saddle. Whether you model your nut width after something you enjoy playing already, or you're trying to copy a existing model or something, regardless of how you arrive at that figure, doesn't really matter. It's all personal preference. So most of the major manufacturers have their specifications out online if you want to research that, or again, you can measure what you have, or you can kind of tweak your string spacing and nut width to meet your own personal specs. So for example, when I lay strings out, I like to make sure my high E is at least 3 millimeters from the edge of the neck to help. It helps me play a little bit cleaner. Whereas my low E, I can cheat that a little bit closer to the edge of the neck, since it doesn't really, my hands don't seem to interfere with it as much. Right. One thing we haven't talked about a lot is scale length. That is the length from the back of the nut to your bridge. And you can pretty much do anything you want. There are formulas and there's calculators online to get your fret spacing right. I wouldn't recommend getting too crazy with that stuff until after you've built a few. I would recommend maybe, at least for your first guitar, this is one place where you might want to just purchase a fretboard that's pre-cut, or at the very least stay with standard fret spacing. And there's all kinds of stuff online that you can research. Measure a guitar that you have. You can make fret slots, you can buy a fret saw, stuff like that. We'll probably get into that here further down the road when I get to the fretboards. But the reason I mention it now is once you've figured out your nut width and your saddle or bridge string width, you've got to draw it out. And you need to draw it out in the context of your scale length. So say you have a Fender Strat that's 25.5 inch scale length. Just to throw a number out there. You want your, however you're drawing it, whether you're drawing it on your neck blank or you're drawing it on a piece of paper, you want to draw it out so you end up with a tapered shape like this. Or maybe you even cut it into a piece of wood, kind of like this just jig I made here. So you'd have your nut width, saddle width, the length of your strings, and then you're able to model that out. Draw that out on your neck blank before you saw it out. First thing you're going to want to do is establish your center line. I've already marked these necks up, so I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. So you can see down the center of this, that's the exact center of the neck. Just like your guitar body, everything gets built relative to that. If you're off center in any way, your strings aren't going to line up. They're not going to line up with your bridge. So it's absolutely critical that you work off of that. Next thing is headstock. Hopefully you've given some thought to that and you've actually laid it out 6 in a row, 3 and 3, however you want your tuner, 7 in a row. I don't know. However you want your tuners to lay out, and you've figured out how your strings transition from your nut so they're not interfering with another tuner, and they're not contacting each other. You've got correct spacing, and that you've figured out your actual width and size of your headstock from that. Now that we've got that all marked out, as you can see, the pattern for my headstock is slightly oversized, and truth be told, so is the shape of my neck, the width of it. I like to get within a millimeter or two and sand up to that, so I get that really good tight fit between the neck pocket and the neck itself. That it gives me a little wiggle room when I'm making it. We're going to try something a little bit different than what I typically do today. Usually I'm using my belt sander a lot, kind of my favorite tool. I'm going to try using a spoke shave today, but this is a very old spoke shave I got from my dad. Very sharp, a little higher quality, ought to keep an edge very nicely. So we're going to try that out. If it doesn't seem to work, we'll just flip over to the belt sander. We'll end up finishing it on the belt sander anyway. But we'll try this out, see what happens. Ooh, careful. I don't know if you can see that, but the thing I'm trying to avoid is if you get too big of a bite on it, it'll get in and it'll take some pretty sizable chips out of it. I don't know if that's a characteristic of maple or if it's just my technique, but it's going to have to be something I'm going to have to be very careful of as I get closer to my finish size. Right now it's not a big deal, but it's certainly something I'm going to have to look out for, because a guy could wreck a neck pretty easy if he doesn't watch it. Additionally, it really seems like direction makes a difference. For example, this side, if I pull toward me, it seems to come off a little better. This side, if I push it this way, it seems to go a little better. If I pull back, I seem to catch it and really just break stuff like that, really dig in. Hey, we're back. I've got this all sharpened up. To be honest with you, I didn't really improve on it a whole lot. Got a really fine stone. I mean, this baby is sharp. so I don't really understand why I'm biting in and taking these big chunks out of it. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to using the belt sander since I'm a little more comfortable with that, and I really don't want to wreck this. We've reached the point where we're going to talk about your truss rod channel. Now, you can install this channel, you can route the channel in pretty much at any stage of your neck build process right up until you put your fretboard on it. I would recommend doing it as early in the process as possible, so if something goes horribly wrong when you're routing your channel, something you can't recover from, you don't have a bunch of time and effort invested in your shaping and getting your neck all nice, and only to ruin it with the router with some sort of accident. Something to think about. You don't have to do it that way, but just something to consider. One of the factors you're going to need to know is the depth of your truss rod channel, and that's going to be the height of your truss rod for obvious reasons. And you're going to need to have some sort of fixture to make that channel, to cut it straight. It could be something as simple as a piece of plywood with just a slot routed in it, and some short screws. You attach it to the top of your neck. You determine what the length needs to be, what the depth is going to be. You adjust your depth of your router, depth of your channel, and versus the depth of the thickness of whatever your fixture is. Route the channel. It's pretty self-explanatory, pretty basic. If you've ever ran a router before, it's nothing new. Fixture I've built here, it's a little more involved because I actually use it to create the access hole for the truss rod itself, which maybe I'll show that in a future video. It's a little more involved, but there's probably even more elegant ways to do this. The way I do it is, obviously I have the channel, and this is overly long, and I just have to make marks relative to where I want it to begin and end. This way I can use it to make a bass guitar neck, or anything much shorter like an acoustic neck. In this case, you would take your neck, you're going to line it up with your center line. This particular board here, I already have it screwed down just so I don't have to mess around, so I can streamline this a little bit, but it would also be loose, and you're lining everything up. You've made marks on the back side of your neck, you've made marks on the top of your neck where the truss rod begins, where it's going to end, so you'll be able to see them through your slot here. Line up your center lines on your fixture, which the center line on the fixture goes down the center line of your slot. So once again, everything's built around that center line. So once your neck's in here, center lines are lined up, I just throw some screws in it. Once again, there's probably some more elegant way to do this with clamps and things like that. I always meant to develop it a little bit more, but this is a temporary solution that just keeps on working, so that's where it's at. In order to hold it tight to the cutting surface, I just have some scrap pieces of softer wood. It looks like spruce. Overly thick, so when I tighten this down, pinches it, holds the neck in place. Like that. And another piece piece here. You don't want to use anything really hard and then you'll damage the back side of your neck. So just a softer species of wood will work fine. If you're going to make a jig like this, and there you go. Now you'd be able to see your marks through the top. You'd make some corresponding marks on your board here, so you know where to begin cutting, where to end cutting. Take your router. You've adjusted your bit to the depth. Stick her in there, and you're going to cut. Once again, pretty self-explanatory, but this is definitely one of those things where it pays to measure twice, maybe 3 times, and just cut once. I think that's enough for this video. I do appreciate that you've stuck with me till the end here. I think next time we're going to talk about some of the hand sanding, the finish sanding for this electric neck in particular, how we're going to fit it to the body, what that fit's supposed to look like. Maybe I'll talk about fretboards. Maybe we'll even get a fretboard installed on it. I guess you'll have to tune in to see, and then we'll both know. So until then, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye.